Hello, everyone, and welcome to Casual Army Painter makes casual videos about army painting or something like that. Um, I'm a bit tired. I've just spent an hour trying to figure out background removal the for this video tool, and I couldn't find it, and I've spent an hour on a sunny Sunday morning doing that because I had half an idea to record this video. Um, yeah, so I'm casual army painter. I paint armies, I guess, or batches a lot. Um, for the fun of it, for my personal, just dopamine rush of getting things done. And yeah, I know there isn't much to talk about with army painting because it's just like paint simply, paint quickly, that's it. Like there's no tutorial, and painting simply because it just means not painting paints fancily. But yeah, I don't know. This got triggered again by one of my kind of more, let's say, quality-based painter friends, and saying that us comparing kind of notes about him. Yeah, not having the ability to paint lots and fast, and me not having the patience to, forego the dopamine rush of having finished something quickly, and going through bigger projects. So, yeah, I don't know. There's, I don't know, a million and one tools to, or tutorials, or people talking on podcasts about how to paint, the best possible quality in the best possible lowest amount of time, and it's just so not rocket science. So this is not me trying to share tools because just paint fucking quickly, right? It's learn how to pick your colors efficiently by using the color wheel, follow your instincts, and try to paint a unit or two per week with a full, on a work schedule. Or, I don't know, paint 100 minis in 10 days because you're on sick leave. Um, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what this is going to become. In the background, you see, way too much stuff of my personal life. With over my right shoulder, uh, you see my effectively bits box, or my many, many boxes of bits, basically from Trench Crusade. But yeah, I know. I've been in the hobby since I guess the late 90s, with the kind of usual break of, going through university, and then after that realizing, hey, there's this hobby, or in this case, my case, hey, here's a pandemic, and you still have all those old miniatures, and you have nothing better to do, so why don't you, finish that Imperial Guard that you started in the mid 2000s, early 2000s. So yeah, I've been around since third edition, effectively 40k. The first minis I ever got for 40k was the Metal Scouts, like second edition Metal Scouts, because I wanted to get Tactical Marines, but they didn't have them. So I went, basically, like, it's supposed to be about this many, at the time, Deutschmarks. Like, the thing is supposed to cost like 25 Deutschmarks. It's not there. Like, there's this thing for 20 Deutschmarks, and then I was really disappointed that it wasn't plastic and modular and buildable. It was just like fixed metal minis. Fixed post, fixed everything, and I still have them somewhere. Um, I love them dearly. I painted them quite well actually for the time. But yeah, I've now kind of sealed them in plenty of varnish so that they don't get hurt anymore, but I don't want to repaint them. Um, those were like the kind of classic ultramarine, um, yeah, scouts, or like not ultramarine scouts, but the ones that were, um, yeah, painted, on the box art as ultramarines, and I still want to try try again, like to try those minis with that scheme again. And I have like a set of them lying in alcohol right now, trying to get some, I think, Blood Angels paint off of them. Um, yeah, but I started with everyone, with the Space Marine Army, and I started with the Eye of Terror campaign. Like that was one of my big kind of 40k experiences. I come from a small town. We had a small group of people, like effectively 1.5 people or two people with whom we were playing like 40k in fantasy at the time. And I started with the Space Marines. Like loved painting them, painted them, lots and badly with my lovely little army called the Doom Guard. And they were nice. They were like dark blue, dark purplish blue with like ivory color, bone color, details and rims. It's still quite effective color scheme. It's just I think the ultramarine scheme just dialed to at 10.5, like very dark blue, very bright, gold yellow. But yeah, and had a kind of the tomb cross like as the chapter symbol, because it was just like a simple cross, and more often than not, even those lines were not straight at the time when I yeah painted free-handed them, although there was a lot of freedom and not a lot of hand at the time. But yeah, that was my first army. Then the Plasticadians came out, I think 2004, 2003, 4, and I started with them, and then I had tried to find ways to make them viable points wise. So I think I had 3 Leman Russ eventually. Had a Chimera, so I could field like a platoon, like 2 infantry squads. I think 3 infantry squads, four, four I think. 4 infantry squads. I built one of them as veterans with like badly green stuffed coats. One of them has a kind of mobile infantry troop, like yes, mobile infantry, like with a Chimera. And then I had the platoon of like 2 infantry squads with a platoon leader. And then I think there was the veterans with grenade launchers, I think. And what else did I have at the time for that army? That was mostly it. I built a couple of squads as kind of stormtroopers, like dwarf warriors with bolters, essentially, and Space Marine backpacks. Those were my stormtroopers. And then I had a Grey Knight Grandmaster, because that was the time of the Demon Hunters. And I was like, I remember a campaign with like my Imperial Guard versus Chaos, and we kind of went back and forth, like whoever had first turn won against Dionysus. But for some reason, like no matter what happened, my Grey Knight Grandmaster ended up ended up killing the Chaos General, because he could just force weapon them with a leadership check, and then whoever he hits was gone. He also then died, but equals equals. Yeah, that was the army, and then I went to study. I had like a dwarf army in Warhammer Fantasy that didn't get very far because it was mostly blister packs. I still remember being very proud of my 10 hammerers from the metal blister packs. But like I loved the idea of dwarves. I loved the kind of the characteristics and the characterization of them. But on the playing field, I never got along with them. And then Beastmen came out, Warhammer Fantasy Beastmen, and that changed a bit of things because they were completely chaotic and they were a mess. They was not sure where they would show up. Wasn't sure whether they would listen to you. They could actually fucking move across the battlefield. And they had the Dragon over Shagath, however you want to pronounce that. And that one was a beast. And with those, I finally started winning a few battles because they were so chaotic. And so, like, I had a Pestigore unit that didn't do too badly. I had like 3 differently sized mixed, Gore Ungor herds that were doing all right. I had a bunch of the chariots, bunch of chaos spawns, like good old, 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Bray herd. It was so much fun. And then studies and life started properly, and came back. I still have like my beastmen are still like at their friend's parents' basement from the olden days. Like I've been there for 20 years at this point. It's become a running joke between me and my friend. Like, hey, we we really need to get your army back, and we really need to get that to you. And it hasn't happened yet, but will eventually. It has been found again. Um, yeah, then there was a long break, and then pandemic started, so I started painting. One of the first things, like even before the pandemic, I had kind of, looked like I had always stored them, like I'd been living in the same kind of flat for a long, long time, so I knew where everything was. But then, yeah, I knew that there was still a bunch of the Cadians that were unpainted, and that became kind of my first pandemic project, and like my first bit of like, okay, I need to buy paints again, or like I want to buy paints because I'm going stir crazy. I don't want to look at the screen the whole damn time. And that was the start of it. And then I painted them comparatively quickly. I figured that I wouldn't follow the old scheme. The old scheme was, I think, like just a black spray undercoat, Chaos Black at the time, followed by gray dry brush, and then it was red, dark red armor, and like greenish yellow, like details, or the eagles, etc. There were that. And then I think some of the sergeants got like their coats, like um, the overall coats, outer coats. I don't know. They got them in that brighter color, which was, I think, like rotting flesh was the name of the color. Um, yeah, that was fun. But I didn't want to paint that again because like that had been done. So I ended up painting them effectively in traffic vests. Like I painted them as a PDF of of a planet that got kind of force recruited into the services of a rogue trader. Like that was my idea. Like I was going to add a few different army schemes because like that was the narrative. Like you know bad guy rogue trader just enforces force enlists everyone. And so I painted them as a planetary defense force. So I gave them effectively jeans, like blue trousers, then green coats again, but like goblin green coats roughly, followed by like bright red/orange, warning vests, essentially flak jackets. So all of their kind of armor was like brightly colored, and they had jeans and just whatever jacket, you know. I ended up playing the blue, yeah, blue, slightly darker blue jeans, the blue pants, green coats, and then red armor. That was fun. Um, I enjoyed doing that. And then eventually, yeah, I did paint a group of. That was yeah, that was the time when I started properly getting into things like eBay, and in the year 2020, it was still affordable. Like you could still get a box of Cadians for the price of new 40K plastics. At that point, they were the same 40K plastics, just at effectively twice the price from what I was used to. So yeah, I wanted to get Cadians. I wanted to get I wanted to get the all of the proper ones. Like I wanted to get normal Cadians. I wanted to get like the metal Cadians. I wanted to get Mordians, Valhallans, Talarn, Vostroyans less so, because they were kind of, to me, they were the ones that came as I was already kind of leaving the hobby. They were, I think, 2005, 2006, something like that. So for me, like the OG metal regiments were the Cadians, Catechans, Tellan, Valhallans, Mordians. And I got my hand on, eventually got my hand on a decent enough sized force of Catechans. So like I now have a Catechan kind of platoon. I have managed to get, I don't know, 10 or so metal Cadians that I painted up together with the kind of with the plastic ones. Same scheme, just slightly different helmets, etc. Which looks fun enough. And I did get some Mordians, and I ended up painting the Mordians as kind of commissars in waiting. So they went back to the kind of to my original scheme of like black everything and then red armor. So they were just like black everything with bright orange epaulets. So like because I had started also painting, getting a few commissars, and I had painted them like largely black with like the red kind of scarves, etc., and then the bright orange epaulets. And the Mordians were commissars in waiting, so they was painted very simply, but they do strike nice quadruples because it is just black and orange. And I got like the set that I got was like 13 of them or so, 12 of them, 13 of them, and like three melters and like a sergeant and some dude. So I couldn't really field them as normal, normal infantry, even in whatever it was at the point, 8th edition. Yeah, that was the point in ninth edition 40K where the Imperial Guard Codex wasn't out yet, so we were using the 8th edition one, and there you could still have things like veteran squads. So that army is largely then built around that, meaning you could have, like, I had three squads of veterans. I had the veterans from like way back when, with the green stuff caves where the wind always came from the back because I didn't know how to model caves. I had the Mordians, and then I had Colonel Schaefer's Last Chances, like the Penal Legion unit. I also got my hands on a nearly complete set of them. Like I never fielded that force against anyone, but that would have been the army. And ended up painting that, and eventually, like, I realized I'm probably not gonna get the Talarn or the Valhallans. I did get a fair amount of like mixed like modern and metal Catachans. That was fun. So in theory, Talon and Valhalla are still like on the schedule for that army eventually. Painted that, and then that was around the time when the ninth edition box came out, and it was like, okay, if I'm going back into this hobby, then I might as well do it properly. So I got the launch box for ninth edition, and just had to look up because it's right, up there, the Indomitus box. And I split that. I got the Necron part in front of mine, painted the Space Marines. I painted them as Mantis Warriors, which was fun. So I had to start in Necrons. And then I built them up um, to, I think, around 3,000 pounds. I got myself a monolith, Nightbringer, bunch of spiders, and then a bunch of, because they destroyers, the walking destroyers, Scorprex, they had come out. Got myself a bunch of normal destroyers, not the heavy ones, but the normal ones. And then that was finished, and I started painting it. And I kind of, my idea was, okay, this is like they woke up, and they're, over the millennia, their world has, where their tomb world has come underwater, so they're emerging from water, so their bases are all water. And I had the idea, like, it would be a fun effect, or like fun idea, that they would be kind of, glowing from the inside, emerging from the water. I think realistically that would just be, in a column of plastic, of resin, of see-through resin with, you know metric ton of bubbles, because if it's hot, things are hot, then it's very, very bubbly. And I ended up just, giving them water bases. And that's it. And they were painted to a point, like, that was the first time that I painted like 60 models in one, like, in one big batch. Did look very, very good. And then, like, all the kind of bigger metal plates were like in three-ish colors, two-ish colors, dark blue with some edge highlights. And when I did that scheme that I had done on all the Necron Warriors and all the Scarabs, doing that on spiders, I didn't want to complicate things, but then was just a very, very fucking simple scheme. Painted them up, played them exactly once in the local club. They got beaten badly by somebody that essentially, like, I was kind of new kid asking, hey, I haven't played this, like, I'd like to join the community. And then the guy that ended up, you know, volunteering to play against me introduced himself with, like, hey, I'm the guy that won the, competitive tournament last week. So that was fun. I got beaten badly by a bunch of Space Marines. Um, yeah, I did that, and then I did Tau, that I recently sold. Kind of, I wanted to, always like the idea of World War One. A big surprise that I ended up going into Trench Crusade not too soon after that. But yeah, I started building up a Tau army, which was effectively, the idea was a World War One Tau army. So, like, color scheme was like lots of grays and browns, or just mostly just grays and browns, and the occasional bit of blue Tau skin. But and not a single, what are they called, battle suit, like, not a single one. So it was just, I think, four or five infantry squads, two or so Pathfinder squads, bunch of, what are they called? Cadre, veteran cadre, somethings. A bunch of the priests, and then tanks. So I think I had both of the plastic flyers. I had 3 piranhas. I had 3 devilfish, I think, up to 4, depending on how you kind of set up each tank. Then I had potentially 2 of the kind of rocket ships, and then the rest was devilfish with like rail guns or plasma guns. That was fun. Like I had a still have a video on my Instagram where I kind of batch painted 5 of the kind of devilfish kind of chassis and stacked them up. Like they were actually quite high, and then turned them around, and it was sketchy as hell. But they didn't fall over. Ironically, until uh, I did it. I did another one with I think 6, and I managed to shoot like the whatever 10-second video, to, trying to reshoot it, and what that video captured was me accidentally touching the pile before I started moving um, the piece of cardboard that I was sitting on, and it completely fell apart. Devilfish flying everywhere. Um, that was fun. That was my first like kind of modern proper project where I said, okay, I want them grimy. I want them. I kind of want to learn something, and this was like I had them, and then like I had the big army kind of assembled, and then I started painting them. So that was that. And they were done, I think, over the course of a year. At that point, like 3-ish thousand points. Um, Bought the codex, never played them. Ended up selling them because I didn't use them. Also, like I had a fun experience. Like I joined a Vanguard Tactics. Vanguard Tactics. I think how to use Tau video with like a big fancy their Tau tutor, and it was free to the public. And I asked them like, hey, I like this. There's this world, Tau world Sakea, which is kind of the even more communist and overly populated world, which is just like lots of infantry and a bit of stealth. And I said, hey, what are your thoughts on a Sisea army without battle suit? And I had, because it was a live stream, I ended up, and I was able after the fact to go back and like capture the moment of utter speechlessness by the 2 people, by the supposed experts. It was so much fun, and they had no idea how to do that because it's apparently not what people want to play Tau as. Like effectively, like an airborne Tau army. Again, airborne as in flying APCs. So I was that, and then I finished that, and that's when Heresy started. I think it was 2002, probably. Yeah. And then I thought, okay, this is cool. Like I got the box set, and then kind of also at the time started to like read about Angron, and like not just Angron but like as the Angron that could have been or should have been. So yeah, I fell in love with the idea of Angron as kind of the medic, like because like there are the stories about him kind of healing the people like of his gladiator army. He's Spartacus. So yeah, and like there's a story where he's kind of taking the pain of others to help them, let them help sleep. So I felt like, okay, so he's the empath, he's the healer of the bunch, right? Because that kind of archetype is missing from the Primarchs. Like there's no the healer. There's the mage. There's the artisan. There's plenty of decent people, but there's not like the medic, like not the healer. So it seems like that would have been Angron. And I feel this idea of a bunch of warhounds realizing, hey, so yes, we like battle, but also we like, focusing more on the community aspects uh, of that group, and ideas of brotherhood and family. Um, so I fell in love with that. So I said, okay, I'm going to do warhounds. I'm going to do loyal world eaters that kind of came back after Angron had been found, that hadn't where the nails are not even prevalent. They're basically not there, and they're kind of going to war against the world eaters as the warhounds. And like my fluff of the army was that they had been traveling around with the blood angels, and the blood angels had been kind of also very violent and borderline broken, or even more broken probably than the warhounds. But then their Primarch turned them around, right? Their Primarch showed them how to be good people. And I painted up like the warhounds have plenty of like bronze slash gold, and I always painted like with the Mark 3, 2, and 3, like they have this there's this armor ring around the neck, and I painted that black with everyone, basically as a show of kind of mourning the Angron that should have been. So basically, like, okay, our the Surgeon General that we should have gotten is dead, so now let's put down that puppy. And that was the idea. And that was a big project. Like, I also like didn't get it all in one at once, but I got spent so much money on custom bits, like from it was Pop Goes the Monkey. Has a lot of like 3D printed Legion symbols that you can use instead of decals, decals, on the shoulder pads. So all of them, like that whole army had like their Warhound's Legion symbol on their one shoulder pad, and the other shoulder pad I always freehanded. So I don't know, it was 100 plus infantry, Space Marine infantry, with like hand painted, free-handed squad markings, essentially. I mean, not squad markings as in like on the knees, etc., but on the shoulder pads. So that was that, and I finally finished 3 months ago. Um, then like, but as I started them, came to the lovely idea of, hey, there's such a thing as the Imperialis militia in Heresy. And that got me excited because that's a stupid idea. Why would you make a big army with, where the only way you have is like either painting literal hundreds of miniatures just to fill out like 500 points, uh, yeah, worth of points, or you paint a lot of tanks, right? And then there was this really cool Goonhammer article, which was about like how to build militia, and they say, hey, here's this really cool kit from Oathmark where you get like 18, 15 cavalry for like 30 euros. So okay, so I haven't watched Lawrence of Arabia, I think, for 30 plus years, but I thought, okay, yeah, that's going to be the army. That's going to be cavalry and tanks. And then I built that. Like, and also because it's a stupid idea. Like, you're mostly going to run into Marines, so bucket loads of things that die easily. That's like kind of give to your opponents, right? That was the idea. Like, I wasn't playing much of anything at the time because I didn't have access to the community. But yeah, I was always I like this idea of having a spending an afternoon kind of giving having a good time with your opponent, but also like making sure that they have a good time by feeding them an army that is designed to die, right? That is designed to yeah, to to make Space Marines feel heroic. So there was that, and I ended up building that. I still have like one unpainted unit there. I have a unit of like 15 cavalry that still needs to be painted. Otherwise, that's done. And there I had like a 5 Luminous, 3 Malkadot tanks, including my first ever proper like big Forge World tank. I had a Forge World Piranha and the Chow. But I got a Malkadot Defender as that. Because I've just realized I haven't looked in the camera for quite a while properly. Yeah, so that's that. Ended up painting them, and I had as it was a big batch. Like I was on sick leave. I don't know, for a few weeks last year. Like for 10 days, I was like, okay. I don't know if I got COVID again or something, right? So on sick leave for like 5 days. Okay, I'm going to use this time, or like for burning through like vacation days, and that was me like, okay, I have whatever it was, 5 days. Like let's like yeah, I have effectively a week. Let's do something stupid, because this was also for mental health. So I don't want to think. So let's do something. Do as Let's do this big pile of infantry that you have lying around, and that was ended up being 105 models that I painted like one step at a time. So like whatever I did it 105 times in a row. So you do like 2 steps per day, but then maybe three, maybe three, maybe four if it's a long day. But like you spend a lot of time doing the same bullshit. That was fun. And then right as that happened, kind of I had gotten into Trench Crusade and become part of the community. Kind of joined the community, realized that there were rules, and since then, that was like 1.5 years ago ish. Like yeah, April. Yeah, yeah, I think April, May, 2024. And then that was a moment where I started like buying kits to kit bash for Trench Crusade. Then for effectively the last year, I've just painted one small warband of 10 people for Trench Crusade after the other. And then only took a break when Heresy 3.0 was announced, and that was my moment where I wanted to finish the Warhounds. Right, like they were done to quite an extent, but I think there was the I had built some rampagers that weren't done, and then the rampagers weren't done, and the Spartan wasn't done. And then I had built like a bit after the fact, like after everything else, I had built a unit of inducti. Like there was just like literally scrapping like the remainders of unpainted, like unused models from my Space Marines. So like any leftovers from my Tortuga purchases, any leftovers like that, they were including like Mark 7 armor. With the idea was like, hey, if the army is following the Blood Angels, then they're following them through to Terra, meaning at the siege they will have access to Mark 7 armor, but I'll paint that armor gray, like so, like effectively raw ceramite. And there were bits like from Blood Angels, from Black Templars. I included those bits because they were just like, yeah, they were meant for one of the other legions, one of the shoulder pad that was meant to go to a Imperial Fist Templars unit. They got them because they were there first, and they needed that shoulder pad. So I ended up painting another 30, 36 infantry, like including a then built chaplain for the rampagers, like for the flying rampagers, and the Spartan. That was the first thing that I painted that wasn't, yet another warband for Trench Crusade. So, and that kind of brings us to present day, because then I thought, okay, 3.0, like, and I had started to, like, there were a few weeks where I played, like, not regularly, but like I got two 30K games in quick-ish, like within a month or so, within 6 weeks, ahead of like the launch of 3.0. Um, and one was with the Warhounds, where they beat up some Sons of Horus, which was largely due to my opponent not being very firm, or like very fine tuned to second edition, and I hadn't played really. I had played like a few small games, but that was it. But like my army was like tailored to that edition, and I think that made the difference. Um, yeah, that was it. That was, I think, the only reason, because I had yeah. I mean, honestly, that was that. Then I was I wasn't necessarily more familiar with the rules, but my army was built for that edition, and was built for a specific rite of war. Not the Berserker one. It was for the Crimson Path one, which gives you kind of more durability as you charge the enemy. And if you have, two big blobs of 20 infantry that are just running at the enemy, you can, it helps, let's say. Yeah, and the only reason why I won that battle is because the rampages were, well, rampaging. Um, yeah, so that's that. But yeah, as third edition was announced, so like, okay, I played the most straightforwardest of legions in the history of ever. I'll play something more, I'll build something more complex than that. Um, and then, so, okay, so went kind of through the army, said, okay, Thousand Suns, yes, but I don't want to paint like candy red. Um, but I'd always fallen in love, like, I'd always liked the pre Magnus color scheme. So I thought, okay, pre Magnus color scheme like is a bitch to paint, because white metallic is a bitch to paint, as I'm finding out right now, or as I found out as I prepared did the base coats on them last weekend. But I now have, like, I've built a Thousand Suns pre Heresy, like, essentially, Great Crusade era army. There's a bunch of Mark Sixes in there, not a single Mark Five, but a couple of Mark Sixes, because I still had like some weapon teams lying around, like five heavy bolters and five rocket launchers. That were just based on the fact that those things came with the old Mark III and technically still current Mark IV sprues, which were, built to be tactical squads for 40K. So they came with a few heavy weapons and with a few special weapons. So I think I have, yeah, still like 12, 12 or so, 12, 13 like melters and plasma guns, because I didn't use the ones from the kind of special weapons kit. Everything else has been used up, including Volkite charges now for the Thousand Suns. But yeah, so that's my kind of current project. And then I'm already way too much in love with another one, with because probably as I'm recording it today, they'll announce the pre-order of these kind of starter boxes for the different factions in Heresy. And there's a very good chance that I'll get the Soul Auxiliar one, and then I'll build with what I had left over again from the one from the minis that I I'm not going to use with the Thousand Suns, i.e. the Saturnine stuff and like the Saturnine Terminators and Captain or like Praetor and the gun. Um, those and like some leftover stuff that yeah I'm not going like I always have like a pretty exact idea. Okay, this army is built like these units are for this army, and then the rest I'll put to the side and I'll use it later. So now I have like still like 10 new Mark III Space Marines, like technical Space Marines that I was planning to use as allied traitor White Scars. But I've like that force of like traitor White Scars has been reduced and reduced and reduced, and now there's like instead of 20 despoilers, there's 10 left, and I might be using them. I've actually ordered some jump banks, so I'll make them add them into veteran assault ultramarines, and then together with the Solar Auxilia, they'll probably or they will be um, yeah there will be a combined arms force with the biggest chunk being Solar Auxilia, and they'll be representing for once actually battle from a book, the from Betrayer, from that book. I've read through for First Heretic, Know No Fear, and now I'm in the middle-ish of Betrayer. So like the journey of the Word Bearers, um, and then Battle of Cult, of course, is like quite cool for Ultramarines. And then but what really kind of caught my attention was this kind of combined arms force, the Academy Guards on Armatura in like the first couple of 100 pages on Betrayer. Like I'm not that far in. Like battle is still raging, but like that idea of a combined force of yeah normal mortals and then the Academy Guards, like the Evocati. That sounds like a lot of fun. Um, so yeah, this is I don't know. This escalated way too much. Honestly, I thought like, hey, I'll talk about how I got into army painting. And well, what armies I've had. I don't know. I feel like I want to eventually do proper videos. I don't know. This is essentially an audio format, but I want to put it on YouTube. So there's that. And I don't want to make it fancy, so I'm not going to edit it. And I don't want to invest into fucking green screen in my, very small apartment here. Like I'm just no, this is for my own hobby. It's going to look like this probably, and they'll probably I'll probably like take the um, images that I have from the different armies, like from the armies that I still have as well. I might take some new ones, especially for the kind of the old Space Marines and the old Imperial Guard. Uh, yeah, I'll do that. I'll probably take some decent pictures and then throw them in as a slideshow while I talk over that for however long I'll talk. Um, yeah, I know. Um, this feels like a natural endpoint. I've been talking for 50 fucking minutes, 49 exactly at this point. Uh, I'm doing this for me. Not too many people are just like having a, simple approach to painting and hobbying because they feel like they have something to talk about. Like I like talking into a microphone, and but I get it out here where nobody hears me. But I also like feel like this idea of okay, it's not rocket science. It's not calm down. It's just a hobby. Um, and whatever this is, whether this is a one-off video, whether it's not, I, I can't care. Um, but it's not going to be fancy or pretentious. I don't know. Like the only pretense in this here is the fact that this will be publicly available, and I've talked into a microphone for an hour, and I know that my better half, for the lack of a better description, will think that I'm, you know, well, think that this is a form of self-presentation and all of that. It certainly is, but this is also me kind of trying to tell my approach to the hobby and how that happened, how army painting happened, and to just take the. It's not special. Like I'm honestly like I'm not doing it to become a big and fancy painter. I'm doing it because it distracts me from work and from politics and from all of that stuff. I work in civic education. Like I don't want to deal with reality when I'm not working. I do when I have to, and I know how to do my taxes and all of that stuff. But I'm doing the hobby because it's not serious. So I'm not going to take it serious. So I'm not really interested in tutorials or giving tutorials or things like that. I'm not. Personal growth and change happens no matter what the fuck you do. I don't want to like. Yeah, I can maybe go through like the different armies and kind of what I learned from everything, because there is a point like of learning from all of the things, but that's not. Yeah, this is not a. I don't know. I'm not so big on the growth paradigm because uncontested growth is cancer, and that can't be a good thing. If you want to be a great painter, be a better painter, then sure. I mean, I do want to not stagnate either, but I trust the process that the more you do something, the the better you'll get, right? And this is that, like and once you find your place in the hobby and what you enjoy. In my case, this is painting lots of minis badly, because it gives me a dopamine rush to have finished a unit, and a even bigger dopamine rush to have finished an army. That's it. Yeah, so this is not going to be a big tutorial, but yeah, maybe I'll go through the different armies, not from a point of view, of what I've spoken about today, but like how I painted them, what the idea behind it was, also behind paint schemes and things. Because like you do have some thoughts that, but for army painting they don't have to be very complex ones. Um, all right, it's 4:50 something. Okay, yeah. Um, this will be out. I don't know, soon. Have a good week. If you're watching this, holy hell, thank you. Whatever comes of this, comes of this. Have a lovely day. Be kind. Don't be a dick. That sounded way too professional, like an outro. Bye.